us from Guam, Hafade. If you're joining us from Korea, 안녕하세요. So I am kind of leading our Asia team, Asia Pacific. Derek, if you wouldn't mind going to the second slide, I can share with everybody. Want to be able to show you our team. Really quite proud of our team here.
Apologies for the technical difficulties. There we go.
Awesome. So for those of you who are joining us today, this is Team Asia Pacific. What started out as a concept really just amongst some hosts just because it came down to, time. If any of you have ever put together an event, especially a virtual event, it's a lot of time. And actually for us, we have found in the last few series we've done that to be successful, we need 4 people pretty much dedicated in order to pull it off. And so as you can see, when we first started, the idea of trying to pull together not only communities, but also resources and networks, that it has worked out really well. And so you can see us across the board. So, in Japan, we have Derek all the way up north, all the way down south. In Okinawa, on Guam, we have the bases covered there, as well as South Korea and Hawaii. And so you will be able to recognize our team. Each of us, each of the members has the virtual background for our logo. And so this will come into play when we hit our breakout room. So I just kind of wanted to bring your attention to that. And really honestly just say how proud I am of this team. It's coming together really well, and if anything, we have been just a great support system for each other, going through all the things we have in trying to do real estate investing while overseas. So Derek, let me turn to you. That you're able to introduce you.
There we go.
All right, and so today I have the privilege of introducing our host, Derek Horn. He is active duty Air Force out of Misawa Air Base here in Japan. And what's kind of really neat about him is not only is he an EOD guy, in fact, I want to say our first event, he was there in the background just building some bombs there while we were doing our, kind of multitasking. So that was kind of fun. But he's also has quite a depth of experience doing not only real estate investing just in general, but also here from Japan. In fact, I think last event he shared with us that all the properties he owns, he actually owns sight unseen, which says a lot about his skill set and the things that he's been able to do to get to that point. So I think all of you guys are in for a treat because not only do you have Derek as a host, but then our guest speaker. So I won't take any thunder from Derek. He's going to be introducing her, but we'll keep things rolling for you. So Derek, let's move on.
And thank you for the warm welcome this morning. Everybody all over the world, appreciate you guys joining us this morning. And I apologize for the Canva issues. For whatever reason, it doesn't want to progress on my slides. So we'll just keep clicking until something breaks. There we go. All right, so this is our agenda for the day. You guys can read it, but basically I'm going to go over the housekeeping rules real quick, explain our breakout room sessions, how those are going to work, and then I'll break you guys out so you guys can do some networking, and then we'll get to the main course and have our guest speaker with some questions and answers and some closing remarks at the end. Come on. Yay. All right. So first and foremost, please, guys, enable your mute button. Obviously, we're here to listen to the guest speaker and to the individuals that are speaking. So please be respectful to that. Please turn on your video if you are able to. And then we just ask that you rename yourself to include your location. So that'll allow that future networking later on down the road, and for us to kind of know where everybody's at. FYI for everybody, this event is being recorded and we will screenshot it so that we can share it. We have a whole bunch of people that registered that weren't necessarily able to make it today, so we would like to be able to try to pass this knowledge on to those as well. Come on. And I'm gonna turn this back over to you so I can set up the breakout rooms. But if you can kind of explain this, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you, if this is your first time joining us, the way we do our networking events is we do breakout room sessions. And so there's I'm saying about 25 of us. So I think Derek will break us out, I don't know, anywhere between 4 to 6 people per room. And when you get into that room, we will be doing what we call 30-second introductions. And so you'll see here on the screen basically 3 things that we're going to be sharing. Please, when and all the ADPI hosts will sort of facilitate this for us, but they'll probably likely call your name, and so to let you know that you're up. So at that point, please enable your video. That way you can introduce yourself to the group, share your name, share how you're affiliated with the military, whether you're active duty, reserve, National Guard, and then also the question is how did you learn about ADPI? And so that just helps us get the conversation started. And I think Derek, how many minutes are we going to have per session? Do you think about 7?
Yeah, so we're gonna try to do 7-minute sessions, and we're
Okay.
gonna try to do 2 of those.
All right, that sounds great.
So I am just wrapping up the assignment so that everybody can get a breakout room. So just give me a second.
Yeah, and so he said 2 sessions. So basically, first session you're going to be in a room with anywhere between 4 to 6 people. We'll have that time limit, I think about 7 minutes, and then he will pull us out of that room. Okay, and then he will reshuffle us. So this way you get to maximize trying to meet as many people as possible. So definitely encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity to network from people across this region, across the globe, wherever they're joining us from, because this is where it's at, is being able to network with the people who are like-minded, people who are trying to do the same things you're trying to do, right? And of course, everyone has their own experience, and this is a great place to share.
Awesome. Thank you again, Anne, for explaining that. And I'm going to go ahead and put everybody in the breakout rooms now. So enjoy, and let's do some networking.
Okay.
Hi, Shari.
Hey, Derek. So I was reviewing the names while you were doing that talking, trying to see if I could detect anything. And it was like 2 names that, you know.
There were a couple that looked a little sketchy. I reviewed the registration prior to
Okay.
to this, thankfully. But excuse me, thankfully we haven't had anybody that's popped on, so I think we're good. And then
Okay.
I closed it, so like nobody can register for the event. As soon as we start the event, nobody's able to register for it. So it might like in the future it might limit, you know, our participation a little bit for people that are showing up late. But that was the one thing that I did notice last time was the people that were causing the issues. They joined, you know, like 5 or 10 minutes after we started. So I don't know what gave them the heads up about that, but it was very clear that everybody that I had to kick out was after, which makes sense.
Okay. You got another one.
Hey, Michael Gorlami. Hopefully he's not an issue. Little sketchy with the name.
But did he register late or is he just late for the session? You know, so there's kind of like that difference.
So if I understand the way that I set it up, he was already registered. I don't obviously know everybody that registered because there was like 100 people. But if I selected it correctly and I understand what I selected, it should just be he showed up late and was already registered.
Okay.
Excited to do this? Been looking forward to it?
Yeah. As I think about it and, all the things that I've learned and the hurdles that I've overcome and continue to overcome, there are huge blind spots that can be hindrances to people, taking that leap and believing in themselves and, just kind of filling in those gaps. It's kind of like when I read Tom Wheelwright's book.
Okay.
And well, I listened to it on Audible, not read it, but and I've listened into all those series of books. And when you get those aha moments of information as it relates to taxes, is what I'm talking about, and you start to really understand that you have to understand how to operate throughout the year in order to be positioned to take advantage of the tax code. It's not about, I see people at the end of the year saying, what can I write off? Okay,
It's too late now.
Right. It's kind of too late. That's a great question, but there's more to the story. And you got to know how to behave or act in your business or industry throughout the year so that you can have those proper deductions, et cetera. And so I think this is similar. A lot of people want that end state, but you've got to know the things you need to do along the journey to get to where you think you want to be. So, yeah.
Definitely, that definitely resonates. So I always enjoy when tax questions pop up on ADPI. And I try to help when I can, because I kind of enjoy. Let me back up. I don't enjoy taxes. Nobody enjoys taxes, let's be honest. But like it resonates with me. I'm able, like, I go and do the research, I look into the IRS publications, it just clicks. It makes sense for me. But you see these people that ask these questions and they're like, I don't know, they're just like 3-sentence blanket questions. And it's like, you realize your taxes are an all-encompassing thing. It's not like, it's like an investment strategy. Like, I need to know like your background. I need to.
Oh, I know who she is. I actually know her, Marie.
You're gonna have to get her on track. Be like, hey, you need to join on time. Come on now.
Babies.
Oh wow. Okay. Let me see. She's still joining, so.
Okay.
I'll probably just keep her in here with us for a minute, and then they've got about a minute.
To the next one.
Yep. And we're making good time today. We're going to be a little bit early, so you'll have a little bit more time to speak than normal.
Good.
So, and there were a lot of questions on the tax side, which I think it was taxes, maybe LLC. That I don't remember if it was taxes or LLC, which people were getting questioned forever. But I imagine you'll get, oh no, she disappeared.
Oh,
Probably maybe having some connection issues.
let me text her and tell her I can see her trying to join in. She might have thought, hold on, let me find her.
So they've got about 30 seconds left in the rooms, and then they'll get I'll click close the rooms, and then they'll get basically a 1 minute to exit and finish up. And then it'll take me a little bit of time just to reassign so that we don't have the same people in the rooms. Hopefully.
Yeah, I just sent her a message.
Oh.
Right, that was a breakout session 1. I think Derek is pulling us all in together to the main room, and then he'll be reshuffling us into another breakout session, and hopefully you'll get a different mix of people.
Thank you, Anne, for that explanation. Yep, I am working on that right now. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I've been doing this a couple of times now, and we've been pretty good. Last time we had some party crashes, and this time apparently I get to deal with technical issues. So apologies to all the participants. All right.
Gotta love technology. It's always, yeah, sometimes it loves you, sometimes it hates you.
Come on. So if you guys, we can kind of do a quick networking session with everybody in here if you guys just kind of want to talk a little bit, because this is being slow. And again, my apologies for that.
Okay, well, how would you like to go about it, Derek?
Whatever works best for you, Anne, just so I can try to get this set back up.
Okay, so are you trying to get the breakout room still set up? And then
I
you
am.
just,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right. Okay, so I think what we'll do is let's see, we have about 26 people trying to set that up. Let's just have the ADPI host team kind of do introductions. So I'm looking on my screen. I will have Ritarsha, would you mind introducing yourself to the group at large while until Derek can get us into the breakout sessions?
No problem. I am Ritarsha Furkan. I am stationed here in Yokosuka. So Ohio gozaimasu. And I am an active duty naval personnel. Let's see, I am also the lead for the Yokosuka team. I actually learned about ADPI when the previous lead for Yokosuka started the group around 2001. And he started the group. I had never heard of it, although I had been doing real estate in the military for about 15 years. And I lead the group now. And yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to learning from Shari today, but hope you guys will come back for my talk in June when we talk about purchasing property overseas, which is what our latest acquisition was. Is that good?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Derek, are you ready? We'd like me to get another person on the podium.
You can do one more. I should be
Okay.
good after that.
All right, Erica, let's have you introduce yourself to the group.
All right. Hi, I can't see myself, so hopefully I don't look crazy. I'm on a tablet in Hawaii, but I am Erica Lemkel. I am an ICC member with ADPI. Gosh, I don't remember when I found out about ADPI, but I attended the meetups here on island, became the ADPI referral agent, and still lead the meetups a couple of years later. Yeah, so love living in Hawaii and love helping people understand that even though Hawaii is extremely expensive, it can be extremely lucrative as an appreciation market, not as a cash flow market. Very important to understand that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Erica. Derek, how are we doing?
All righty. I think I got it figured out this time. I hope so. Cool. Awesome. We're going to go ahead and start the second breakout room session, everyone. So enjoy.
Okay. Is your Canva working slow? Let me check mine because that's what I'm using as well.
Yeah, I don't know why it's running slow. I don't know if it's a computer issue or if it's a Canva issue, but yeah, it's kind of slowing down the whole computer for me.
Okay. Okay. Do you have what type of computer are you using?
I've got a MacBook Air that I'm on.
Me too. Me too. Okay.
But I think what's slowing it down, and I might change this next time. So I've got the Canva up on my desktop screen, which is huge. So I'm wondering if next time maybe I switch that and throw all the Zoom stuff on the desktop screen and then put the Canva on the laptop screen, and that way it's not, taking as much to run it. I don't know. So. Do we have?
Yeah, it was better for me not going into the rooms, just to be set and ready to go.
Awesome. Good to know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because we,
You got one more person to put in. Yeah.
yeah, I just saw him and we lost.
I just admitted one more, looks like.
Okay, sweet. Let's see. I sent to you. Get out of my room. Go to your own.
Okay. All right, this is good. I sent her a message. She didn't respond. Maybe her phone died or something.
Yeah, you never know anymore.
Yeah. They're a civilian family. I met them here. They are engineer family. First time being stationed with the military. So
Awesome.
but they're investors back home. So yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately am. I mean, I hope I'm doing a good job. I did not have nearly the amount of time to prep that I normally would for this.
Oh, it's fine. It's perfect.
We've got a field training exercise that we're doing next week, and I'm in charge of it and find out about it about 3 weeks ago now, and basically had to build it from the ground up. And it's,
oh wow.
And it's about 50 people from all over the region, and we've got people coming from Alaska and Vegas that flew in for it. So it's
pretty significant.
Yeah, and I've been 8 o'clock has been my normal finish or stop working, like my W-2 job work this week. So it's been long this week, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I say all that and I'm over here like, oh yeah, this stinks so bad. And you're over here like, yeah, I was probably making like 15 phone calls last night at midnight. I had to get up at 4 o'clock to talk to them.
Actually, I was up at 11:30 because my kitchen cabinets were being delivered.
Nice.
And I was on the phone while they were being delivered. And then I had 3 different subcontractors on site for different things at the time. So it was a lot of activity. And then I have a family member who's kind of like my point person. She goes when I'm like, hey, just go and make sure somebody's on time at the house,
Yep.
For example, the cabinet delivery. I said, hey, they gave us a 2-hour window. The contractor's supposed to be there, but you just go, just
to make sure.
Right. And one of the neighbors, the doors were open, and she said one of the neighbors, when they were loading in the cabinets, came out and said, I've seen the house and it's so nice in there. It looks really good. And so my cousin, she's like, when did she walk up to look in the house and why is she looking?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a little different when it's a house that's not necessarily owned by a builder. I mean, I guess technically it's not, but I know. So our last house that we lived in Texas, there was a whole bunch of new construction that was happening from the builder that built our house, and we walked every single one of those houses, like from basically start to finish. He liked to hide his key in the outside electrical box that was right next to like the door, like the one that you like plug in your Christmas lights or whatever that's on the front porch. So we knew like how to get into the houses and everything. And in fact, we would typically talk to some of the people that were looking at the houses sometimes and whatnot. But it was cool to be able to see it. I'm a fairly handy guy. I've done my own remodeling and stuff in some of the houses that we've lived in. And feel pretty confident doing most things if I have to. But it's definitely nice. It's kind of cool to see a house being built from start to finish and see it like 10 different times, because you could pick up on little things here and there on like, hey, they're doing this or they're doing this, or that looks a little questionable. So
Yeah, and for the neighbors, it's good because these are people that have been in these communities for generations, and so they are always excited when the houses are getting renovated and
updated.
fixed. Yeah.
It makes sense. In those older neighborhoods and older towns, that's the only
Yeah.
way you're going to really push property increases, because there's no place to build anymore. So all righty, they are about to end.
Okay.
So I'll get them back, and then I'll do your introduction, and the floor will be yours. And then you're planning on screen sharing your slides, correct? Once, perfect. Come on. For everybody that's in here, we're just closing the second breakout room session. Once everybody is back in here, we'll continue the presentation. So we've still got a couple people that are in the rooms.
While everybody is making their way back to the main room, I just hope everyone got a chance. I know the time is always so limited, so I know one of the things I do is I always write everybody's name and kind of some of the information they share, like where they're at, service, and then I try to connect with them after the event, and then that way we could connect more. So I know, so for example, Yvette, I think you mentioned you're at Kent Humphreys. I would like to connect you to Martin, right, who's the lead there for his sessions. Gladys, I met her, and I'm want to meet her while we're here in Dakota. So just some examples of how to continue the conversation and take more value, not just from this session, but be able to extend it, because that's definitely what it's about. We're here, we're meeting, but it doesn't have to end here, right? You could take these connections, you could take these conversations, and just continue them in different on different communication platforms.
And thanks for the warm welcome again for everybody else. I hope the breakout room sessions were effective for everybody. And again, it doesn't have to end just because we closed the breakout room. So please continue to network with everybody, and we will have a question and answer session after our speaker. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get to the meat potatoes of why we're here. Oh, we're going backwards instead. Just kidding. There we go. So I think, obviously myself and Ann, we've already spoken up to this point, but I'm guessing the majority of you guys are not here to listen to either of us speak. So today it is going to be my pleasure to introduce Shari Evans. She is actually one of the hosts as well. She is at Camp Zama, Japan. Hopefully I said that correctly.
Zama.
Zama.
It's Zama.
Awesome. And if any of y'all have seen the amazing marketing that Kyle Stanton has been putting out on ADPI, if I'm not mistaken, Shari, please correct me, but you have done 8 long distance deals since you've been in Japan. And I think that's more than enough reason for any of us to just be hanging on every word that you say. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you and let you teach us the ways of your force.
Well, thanks so much, Derek. I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to pull up my slides here. And we are going to get started. And hopefully you are, you get a lot out of this. 1 second, let me just get out of here. Uh-oh. Are you seeing my slides in full screen mode?
Not yet. We see your screen, but
Okay,
not your
let me
slides
let
yet.
me reshare again. Let me start it again. Uh-oh. Do you see them in full screen mode?
We do. Thank
All
you.
righty. So let's get started. Again, I'm Shari Evans, stationed here at Camp Zama, Japan. And today I'm going to share as much as I can with you about finding and closing deals while overseas, and hopefully something resonates with you as it relates to how I've been able to successfully do this. And we'll have some time for questions and answers towards the end. Okay, so really when you're thinking about how can you find a deal and close a deal, I categorize this the information set, if you will, into 3 quadrants. The first being defining your buy box, your acquisition and exit financing, how you're going to source your deals, and those 2 pots usually comes through listing, I call them pots, or networks. And we're going to break down each of these quadrants, and I'm going to share with you exactly the information within these quadrants for me. Now, keep in mind, your information doesn't have to be the same as mine, but I'm sharing with you how I've been able to do this, and hopefully something here is helpful for you, and you can take some of this information and use it as an overlay or roadmap to your own success. All right. So the first quadrant is defining your buy box. And the reason your buy box is so important because, oftentimes I'll hear people say, I can't find any deals. And really, it's not that deals, so to speak, aren't available. Usually the buyer or the investor doesn't really have a firm set of left and right limits to what a deal is for them. And so when you're in a real estate meeting, your buy box is like an elevator pitch. If a real estate or realtor has something, they say, hey, I've got, and they give you the parameters for an opportunity, you should be able to, within seconds, think about and run that through your buy box filter to determine if the opportunity that's being presented before you might even be a possibility. And of course, you would have to do some due diligence. And so the buy box is really a few things. One, it's your location. Now, if you're in a highly dense population, it can't just be the city. It should be specific zip codes or areas or regions, because in large cities, the buy box in the housing market varies significantly from Class C, D neighborhoods to A, B neighborhoods to the price points. So just drilling down on what location I'm actually going to be looking for opportunities. And then, do you have a network? And so when you think about network, for me, my network is my pool of realtors, property managers, brokers, contractors, as well as handymen in the actual area. And I'm going to share with you the area that I have been doing my deals in from here in Japan, and what my buy box looks like, and how I've been able to grow my network in that location. And then outside of my network and my people that actually, I'll call it work for me, who's my eyes on the ground? Who's my trusted source outside of the trusted relationships I have with people that I'm contractually, in agreement with? And for me, I'm invested in an area where I have family members, and I have a trusted source who actually goes and just peeks in on things on my behalf. And then what's your purchase price? As I mentioned in number one about location, within the location, you should know how much you're willing to invest on a deal. And everybody's number is different based on the ARV, your financing, et cetera. And we're going to talk about those things as well. And then what property condition are you looking for? Are you looking for a fixer-upper? Are you looking for something that's rent ready? Are you looking for something that could possibly be a short-term rental? So you need to be able to answer those questions for yourself so that people in your network, they know what you're looking for. And when they hear about an opportunity that fits something that's in your buy box, they'll present it to you. And then real estate taxes. This is a big one when you are talking about your buy box. When you determine your actual buy box and you're looking at the location and zip code, check the real estate taxes, because in larger areas, the property valuations and the taxes vary from zip code to zip code or area to area within large major cities. And so you want to have an understanding of what that might actually look like for the deal you're interested in, because it might impact your ability to afford something in that particular zip code. Stuck in Canva. We might be stuck in Canva. Oh, there we go. All right. So here is my example buy box. I'm investing in Philadelphia on the birds that I've been doing. And at the end of this, I'm going to actually share with you one of my current projects, a few short videos. My eyes on the ground, I have a business partner, as well as I have a trusted family member that actually just pops in on my project. And she just peeks in at random times and validates what's happening, aside from what I'm doing with my contractors over my virtual calls. And then my purchase price. So when I'm looking for an opportunity, I'm looking for something that's 50% of the ARV when it has to have a full rehab. So what that means is I'm looking at a specific area or specific zip codes, more than one. And I'll say, okay, what's the ARV in these zip codes? And then let's say the ARV in a zip code is 165. And a house
Shari,
might—
can you define ARV?
Yes, great question. The after repair value. So if houses are selling, so what I'm looking for is I'll do this research myself. I'll go online and I'll look at sold houses in the zip code that I'm considering purchasing. And I'll look at the condition of the house that's sold and I'll say, okay, what type of rehab was done? I'll try to make a determination. And if it's to the standard of what I usually do for a full rehab, I'll take that as what is my comp for my buy box. And so let's say the ARV, let's make it an easy number. Let's call it 180. So let's say the houses are selling for $180,000 after rehab. Then I want to make sure I don't buy anything over $90,000 to start with. That's my first number. So that's 50% of the ARV. And then I'm going to look at the house I'm considering to see if it needs a full rehab, because I have my metrics for what the various elements cost to rehab the house. Like I have an HVAC person. I know what his rate is. I have an electrician. I have a plumber, I have a roofer. So depending on the condition of the house will determine if I think 50% of the ARV for purchase price is a good opportunity or if that number needs to come down. Now, for the rent ready. So I also now and then purchase something that's rent ready. So one of the opportunities I had was to purchase something that was already tenant occupied, didn't need a rehab. And this was, traditional 20% down. And in this type of opportunity, I'm looking at what's the cash on cash return? What's the condition of the home? Will it need repairs? What type of CapEx will I need to set aside for this particular house? And then the house condition, like we mentioned earlier, does it need a full rehab and is it structurally sound? So during my acquisition phase, I do get an inspection. We do have a specific company we work with, and the inspector will tell us, he'll say, in one instance, he looked at 2 houses on the same street that we were considering. And he said, listen, this one house is in really bad shape. This other house, highly recommended. And these were going to be rent ready. So we followed his guidance and we purchased the one that he said was in much better shape based on the inspections. Now, mind you, we did pay for 2 inspections, right? Because we had 2 houses that we were looking to acquire. And the house that we went with, we've had 0 issues. And it was a fantastic decision. But that goes back to those relationships, because he wasn't just a random inspector from a company. He was someone that we know and we built relationships with. And then real estate taxes. One tricky thing to look at when you're purchasing a house is if the taxes that are being publicized are for a owner occupied and they're in a homestead status. So what can happen here is you'll say, oh, the taxes are great on this house. They've historically paid XYZ dollars. But what you didn't realize was the house was owner occupied and the person had some sort of homestead status exemption. And that wasn't the investor real estate tax rate that they were paying. So just make sure you do your homework on your taxes as it relates to the properties. Okay, so when you're purchasing a house, you have to think about, how are you going to pay for a house? Are you going to have a cash purchase? Are you going to rehab it by cash? How are you going to get out the house? Are you going to use when I say get out the house, how are you going to exit the deal? And so these are the various ways that you can fund and exit an investment. You can have a cash purchase, a cash rehab, a cash out refinance, a hard money loan, a DSCR cash out refinance, or conventional finance. And conventional finance worked in the 20% down where I already had a long-term tenant. That worked well. And so that was a good opportunity. So I'll just go over each one of these with you. So let's see, here we go. So a cash purchase and a cash rehab. So in this instance, you would purchase a house for all cash. And you'd probably say, well, who has XYZ dollars laying around? Well, in my market, the houses, sometimes you can buy a house for about $45,000. So it's a little bit different than some of the markets that you guys may be in, where the average house that needs work is $200,000. And if it needs, if you have a smaller smaller level to enter, you can sometimes purchase with cash and do a cash rehab. And then what happens when you go this route, when it's time to refinance, you do a cash out refinance. And that's the first time you actually have a mortgage associated with the property. And that's where you get your cash back. So the benefit to this particular type of financing is there are fewer costs, if you will, fewer holding costs as it relates to what you'll normally pay with a hard money lender, which I'll go over in just a bit. So there are some advantages to doing a cash purchase and cash rehab, but of course your cash is tied up. So if you're tying up all of your cash reserves in an acquisition, you won't be able to make any other moves. But it's an option, and it's kind of like a safe option, if you will, because you're only spending what you have. You're not over leveraging yourself. So I think it has its place, and I've done it. Okay, so then there's conventional financing, which many of you may be familiar with, where you're going to get a fixed rate long-term mortgage at the onset of the acquisition. So you're going to do your due diligence. You've got your buy box. You know what you're going to buy, and in this instance, you're probably buying a house that's rent ready, because conventional financing will not finance a house that's not livable. So that's something you should know. You will not be able to get a conventional mortgage on a house that needs a full rehab. That it's not going to pass inspection. it's not livable. So you just won't be able to go this route. Now, you can buy a house that is qualified as livable, but still choose to rehab it, right? So just because you're rehabbing a house doesn't mean it wasn't livable before you acquired it. It just means you've made a decision to fully rehab that house for whatever reason. The benefits of purchasing in this particular way is this is a one-time close. With the previous example of the cash, you're closing when you pay for cash. And then when you refinance, that's another closing. So you've got two closing sets of fees, if you will, two settlement statements for that one house. With this particular route, you're closing one time and then you're done for the life of the loan, or if you refinance or whatever you decide to do with the property. So those are the benefits I see with the conventional purchase for the long-term holds. Oh, I think let's see. Yeah, we skipped a couple. All right, this one. All right, so this is the other option for financing your acquisitions. A hard money loan purchase and a DSCR cash out refinance. So when I first heard the term hard money loan, I really didn't understand what it meant. It's really similar to the process of acquiring a hard money loan is similar to the process that you go through with a conventional loan. Now, it's not as rigid, it's not as much documentation, but it's not like, when I heard this term, I was like, hard money loan, is that like some random person, loaning you money through email? It just didn't sound right, the terminology to me. It sounded kind of shady. But these are companies or lenders that are actually lending to real estate investors under certain guidelines and qualifications. And it's the same process of you're going to have a settlement statement, you're going to have a title company with title insurance. It's still a process. It's not a random person depositing money into your bank account. There are still some financial checks and balances as it relates to qualifying for this type of loan. Now, the advantages on a hard money loan, those acquisitions are not in your personal name. They are in your LLC name. So the hard money loans for real estate investors are not going to be in your personal name. So they're not going to show up on your credit report. But these are also short-term loans. These loans are usually for around 12 months. They can be 9 months or they can be 18 months, depending. And the interest rate is going to be higher. So let's say, for example, the interest rate is around 5 or 6% for a conventional loan for a real estate investor. And I'm just making up numbers, right? A hard money loan will probably be about 8 to 9%. For a real estate investor, or maybe 10%. And some of the things that the hard money lender is going to ask about is your experience in investing, how long you've done it, how many deals you've done. And they're not just going to ask you that and you give them the answers to those questions and then they say, yep, you're good to go. Usually the due diligence piece of it is you provide the HUDs from the transactions you've actually navigated as proof of the deals that you have closed. And so, for example, they want to see that you have purchased the house, you've rehabbed it, and you've refinanced it or sold it. And what you would do is you would provide them in that example two HUD statements. The first HUD, which shows the purchase price at closing, and then the second HUD, which shows the sales price or the cash refinance. And that demonstrates how you've increased the value of the home based on the difference between HUD 1 and HUD 2, as in my example. So then you have your DSCR, you have your hard money loan. And then when you're finished, your 12 months are up, or whatever time it is you have for your loan. And it's time to get out of the loan, so to speak. And this is where you do a DSCR cash out refinance. So DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. And that's the metric used to determine if the asset can pay for the new mortgage that you're being considered for. And so the lender would look at what the projected rents are going to be versus what the projected mortgage would be on the house. And you want at least, ideally, you know, if you have like a 1.3, 1.2, 1.3 ratio, that's fantastic. Anything above a 1.0 is good. That means that the mortgage covers 100% of the the rent will cover 100% of the mortgage, which also includes the escrowed insurance and taxes. But if you have a lower DSCR ratio, sometimes lenders will also lend on that as well. I have not been under a 1.0, so I don't have any experience not meeting the 1.0 and above DSCR metric. Now, in this instance, you have to remember you will have closed twice. So you will have paid your hard money loan fees, you at your initial closing, as well as during the time. So let's say, for example, for your initial purchase, you had a 12-month hard money loan. During those 12 months, you're going to pay 12 months of interest only payments on that. You're going to pay a mortgage note, whether it's wrapped up into you pay so much up front or you pay it every month, but you're going to pay a mortgage on the money that you borrowed to do that rehab. So it's to your advantage to get the project finished and refinanced out. So when you refinance out, you're also going to pay closing costs again. But this time you'll be in a long-term mortgage, usually, unless you take an ARM or something like that, you decide that's what you want to do. But you'll be in a long-term relationship, so to speak, with the lender at a fixed rate usually, and then you'll go from there. So in this example, it's less cash out of your pocket because you won't be paying for the property in its entirety. The hard money loan would actually cover the acquisition of the house, as well as the lender would be providing you cash for the rehab, which you would be taking in what's called draws. So you would be taking the money incrementally as you pass inspections to demonstrate the work you perform. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you buy a house for $75,000, let's call it $100,000, and you have $50,000 worth of rehab to do. So the hard money lender may say, okay, you have to put 10% down of purchase price. So that would be $10,000 from our example, that would be $10,000 from the purchase price, and then whatever your closing costs are. And then they say, and we're going to give you 90% of the rehab. So 90% of the 50,000 will be 45,000. So now your new loan in our example is 90 plus 45,000. So it's $135,000 mortgage where you will have put down $10,000 as a down payment plus the closing costs, which usually include points in originations. And then you would be paying a monthly interest mortgage note until that loan is finished, and you would be drawing, is the terminology, the proceeds for the actual rehab. You don't get those proceeds up front. You get them incrementally as you complete the rehab process based on what's called your scope of work that you would have completed during the due diligence phase of the funding piece of the hard money loan. So there's a lot that goes into borrowing money with a hard money lender and then refinancing out. And so you would actually have to have your network in place. You have to have bids and, written estimates and really know your numbers, because this is where you could get into a pickle if the rehab actually costs more than what you put down on paper, but you've got this loan and you've got to finish this house because the lender wants to see the house to completion, or they want to see you cash out of it, but you can't cash out of it because nobody would cash you out for a house that's not completely rehabbed. So you really have to be prepared and have done your homework in this example. Sourcing your deals. So a lot of people will ask me, how do you find deals? Where are you finding these deals? And so I find deals in two categories: listings and relationships. I search the MLS and set alerts when I'm in the acquisition phase. I'm not always in the acquisition phase, of course. You know, I just search the internet. It's fantastic what we can find through technology, and then through relationships. And we're going to talk about those two things. So through listings, so MLS listings, which feed into sites like Zillow, and Redfin is like one of my favorites, and then realtor.com. Now, another one of my favorites to look at is the HUD site. So the HUD site lists their foreclosure listings, and usually they end up offering it for owner occupied first, and then they will offer for investors, but you can set it to where you get alerts about properties. So I've been able to find a gem through the HUD foreclosure listings as well. And then there are brokers who will have mailing lists to offer their projects to as well. And then relationships, like I mentioned, through property managers, friends, brokers, there, you know, we were able to get an opportunity for a house that was an estate sale that came to our property manager, who's also a broker. And she just said, hey, do you guys want this house? I don't even, you know, we don't even want to have to go through listing it. We say, yes, we'll take it. And the family of the estate said, fine. They didn't want to go through the process of listing it either. And we closed the deal and the house never went to market. And so those relationships can be key, because once people know your buy box, that I'm going back to, she knew that house was within our buy box, then people will start bringing you deals. And you won't always say yes, but they will start bringing you deals. And here is my experience. I've purchased off market, like I just mentioned. I purchased from the MLS. I purchased online, foreclosures, cash, conventional, and hard money. And these are the categories that you'll see that I've purchased in. One of the deals, one of the houses I'm getting ready to show you that I'm currently working on, I saw it on I think it might have been Redfin or something. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, this fits. And I looked down to see who the agent was. And it was actually one of the agents that works for our broker who we work with. And so I just texted her. It's like, hey, I saw your house. And she was like, okay. And it worked out. Everything worked out. So those relationships really help you to get to where you want to be. So next up, I'm going to share with you, let's see if it's coming up. Okay, so this is my quadrant that I'm working on, and we're going to get to some quick videos on how I do deals. This was sourced through a MLS listing, and like I said, I recognize the agent's name. It's under a 12-month hard money loan. About 70% complete. Well, it's a little bit further now. When I made these slides 2 weeks ago, 70%. I'm about 80% now. And I'll do a cash out refi, and it'll be a long-term rental. So here is the project I'm currently working on that's in this quad. This is how I sourced the deal. This was the buy box for this deal. So this is a video from one of my contractors. It should queue up. It's circling.
Just the vent in the hallway, just showing you the velocity of the air from the little insulation there. It's the bathroom. And I go back to the bedroom, the back bedroom. You can see the insulation is settling. Let me check the front room here. Okay. That's dropping down out of the ceiling. And you can feel it coming down. That's a return there.
So that was my HVAC contractor sending me his video of everything's operating. Let me go to the next. This is another video.
Good afternoon, Ms. Shari. The last coat should be getting put on sometime this evening. I'll send you the finished look. Just gonna do a walkthrough. First floor. I'm gonna do this in 3 videos, one for each, 2 videos, one for each floor, because the longer the video, the harder it will be to send it. Green board in the wash area where the washer and dryer will be. Ceiling.
Okay, I'll go to the next one.
Second floor. Cutouts. What? I think in this hallway, there's supposed to be 3. If that has to be cut out, so be it. Here is the bathroom. The rooms. Everything sanded, ready for paint.
That was my GC walking through after drywall. And these were pictures of the house after painting. And as of last night, our time here in Japan, my kitchen cabinets were delivered. And on Monday morning, my floors go in. So that's my project that I'm working on now that I wanted to share with you. And we wanted to open it up for questions, but Derek, back to you.
All righty. Thank you very much, Shari. I appreciate all of that wonderful information, as I'm sure everybody else that is present today does as well. Especially like the videos that you put or showed us. I think that's the first time that we've had some like multimedia interaction. Is this with our guest speaker? So sorry, I'm just sharing my screen again for everybody. Hopefully it should be popped up for everybody. Is everybody seeing it now?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so as Shari mentioned, we're going to open the floor for questions. So obviously we've got it looks like we're still sitting at 29 participants. So obviously we can't all talk at the same time. So I ask that if you have a question, just please raise your hand or put it into the chat, and I'll go basically in order. So if I see a question on the chat, we'll go there. If I see some hands, I'll call you out and ask you to unmute and ask your question. Obviously this we do have a limited amount of time. So as we get closer to the end, I'll say like 1 or 2 more questions. And that way, Shari can move on with her day and do what she needs to. As always, though, if you do have questions and then we're not able to get to them, please feel free to reach out to the host, post them on ADPI, or even message us directly. So I'm going to go through the first 2 questions that I've got on here. So I apologize if I mess up anybody's names first and foremost, but I've got Igin's iPhone. So asked if mentorship is available, and would love a step-by-step mentoring on closing a first deal. So I think I speak for all of the hosts that are currently here and the ones that are unable to be present. I would gladly help anybody that needs help. And if you guys want to reach out to the host for your location, so that way you can maybe do a more personalized meeting and whatnot, and kind of break down what you're looking for or what you're thinking, and you can hash out deals. I think every host that I've interacted with and that I know that's at these locations would be willing to do that for anybody that would like that. The next question I had is, when is creating a LLC appropriate and necessary? And that is from Elkin Oh, I'm not even going to try it. I apologize. Shari, I'll turn that over to you as our speaker today, and let you kind of highlight on when you think that might be necessary, especially for us that are investing overseas.
Yeah, so an LLC is required if you are purchasing and financing with a hard money loan or doing a DSCR cash out refi. Hard money lenders will not loan to an individual. They will only loan to an entity. So in my experience, so I'm going to say in my experience, because that, I don't know everything, but based on my experience and the information that I do have, that's when it would be appropriate. So you could definitely purchase in your individual name. If you're financing, just remember that that will also be added to your debt to income ratio as it relates to your credit report.
Awesome. Elkin, hopefully that answered your question that you posted earlier. Next, we're going to call on Mr. Evan Berg. If you could unmute and ask your question, please.
Yeah, so during the presentation, she had briefly mentioned one of the ways she acquired properties is through the HUD website for foreclosures. So I've been interested in that, but I've heard rumors that those typically have to be all cash offers, but I think, and usually at an auction, but I don't know if that depends on location or if there's opportunities to finance foreclosures.
Yeah, great question, Evan. My experience, no, it did not have to be all cash. Actually purchased with a hard money lender, which was financed and acquired it in an LLC name. So usually what happens is the HUD listing has a real estate agent or broker that manages the asset when it's being offered on market. And it really becomes just like a regular listing, except the seller is the bank. That's the only difference.
And then the website, is that HUDhomesusa.org?
I don't know by heart, but I'll look it up
Okay.
as we go to the next question, and I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
And Shari, I'm gonna kind of double tap on that and had a kind of follow-up question for that specifically. When you're using a hard money lender to buy those foreclosures, are you securing the hard money loan up front before you go and place your offer for the property, or are you is that happening on the back end after you're essentially, I guess, under contract for that HUD property?
Well, I actually have a relationship with a hard money lender because of the multiple deals I've been doing over the last few years. And so I'll just send them a note and say, hey, I'll actually send an email, say, hey, looking at a house, this is the purchase price. I need a pre-approval letter, and they'll send me an email with my pre-approval letter. And I use that to make an offer. They say, how much is the house? What do you think the rehab is going to be? And I tell them, and they say, okay, great. And, within hours or minutes, sometimes I get my pre-approval letter. And my agent, if I'm using an agent, or so for example, the last one, we went directly to the listing agent for HUD. So I looked the property up. I saw the agent's name, and we weren't getting a response through the automated system. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to call. I called his cell phone number, and he answered. And I said, listen, looking at this house, this is who I am, etc. And he said, okay, great. And we worked directly with the listing agent for that particular property that was listing the HUD house, and purchased the house, sent him our pre-approval from our hard money lender. Looks like
When he was a baby, did he see the Alps?
Apologies for that. Somebody apparently unmuted their mic.
did that answer the question?
It did, Shari. Thank you very much for that. I had another question. Your hand was up, but I'm not sure if you still had it. Ari Esteban. I'm sorry. I should know how to pronounce your name considering you're a host as well, but I'm a terrible person. Oh, you're still muted.
Well, there you go. The joys of Zoom. First of all, Shari, I want to say thank you so much. It was a great presentation. I really enjoyed the example that you did, you know, with the buying a house and doing the numbers. I think that was great. My question is, if you, when you're looking at houses, what makes you pick that house? Would you think, what is my ending goal with this house? So to me, as you have an area, how do you pick that house? I know you do your buy box, right? And your numbers, but beside that, what is the ending goal for most of your purchases? Are you going to long-term goal, long-term rental? I want to know kind of like the market are you looking at? I think
Yeah, so I'm looking at a house that can become a long-term rental. And one of the things I do is I look at the Public Housing Authority, or Section 8, often referred to as Section 8, market rent. They have what's called the FMR, fair market rent, for the zip codes all over the United States. And I use their analysis for what they would pay for, let's give an example, a 3-bedroom house in my zip code. I look for the zip code I'm buying in, and I look for the fair market rent on the PHA site. And then I get the rent rate. And then I look at the, so then I know a section. So I am interested in providing nice houses in lower income communities where working class people can still have a fantastic house with granite countertops and, you know, everything you would see in the higher end neighborhoods, but it's in a small house. So I use that market rent rate and determine what the maximum ARV mortgage I could carry in order to stay at my projected above 1.0 DSCR ratio numbers. And all of that combined. And then of course I look at the street that the house is on, because I know the neighborhood, because I'm buying in a place where I grew up. So I know the city. I go back there and I visit the area, and hopefully I'm making good decisions. Of course, you know, things can change, and sometimes neighborhoods transition a little bit, but I'm looking at, hopefully to answer your question, looking at a long-term rental opportunity. I'm looking at a house that can meet the standards for a Section 8 tenant, and still meet the DSCR ratio of 1.0 and above.
Thank you. Great answer. That was what I was looking for. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question. Next, we have Jennifer Ryan. Hopefully, again, I
Yeah,
said
good
that
job.
correctly.
You did. Thank you. My question for Shari, I was impressed by the contractors video that he sent you. How do you come up with the plan, living so far away from that house or that property? How do you come up with the renovation plan? Like, it's not reasonable to say you fly over there and come up with, you know, look and say, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. Or do you, you know, because that's not going to happen. Do you just trust your contractor, and y'all know each other so well that he says at this point, I'll bring in those granite countertops I know you like, or this or that? Like, does that question make sense?
Yeah,
because when we bought our house in New York and we lived in Texas, we did a full renovation on it, and I would fly up there and like meet with the contractor, come up with things, like walk through the house. And it was very cumbersome, like financially and time consuming and et cetera. How do you do that from afar?
Yeah, so great question. Actually just walk the house virtually, and I determine what needs to be done based on one, my inspection. I get an independent home inspection, and then I know what I would like done on a house, and I can tell if anything's been done. Most of the houses that I'm purchasing haven't been updated in probably 30 years, so, or more. And so it's obvious that they may need work, and I have multiple contractors that I use, and have had to discontinue relationships with contractors and seek new relationships with contractors. Since I've been here, I've actually had to seek new relationships on this current project. And my contractor, one of them that you heard, I discovered him through Home Depot contractor referral. I just went on the Home Depot site and I said what I was looking for. And then 3 contractors responded. They went to the house. I had my family member point of contact meet at the house, had me on FaceTime. The 3 contractors independently bid for the one piece of work that I was looking to get done, which was relocating some basement steps, which was the very beginning of the project. And of the 3 that came in, I used 1 to relocate the basement steps. 1 I did not use at all because I felt like he wasn't listening to me. He wanted to tell me what we were going to do on the project and how much we were going to spend. And I knew that wouldn't be a good relationship. And then the 3rd contractor, who I did not use for the steps, I ended up using as a GC for the entire project. So I didn't like his numbers and how he came in as it relates to doing the one piece of the steps, but based on my interaction with him, I thought he would be a good fit for a longer term relationship, and it has been a good fit. So that's how I found new contractors from afar, from overseas.
Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you very much for that question. Let's see, who do we have next? Gladys Johnson from Yokota Air Base. Please ask your question.
Hello, Shari. Thank you so much for your presentation. I guess.
Oh, you're muted again.
Sorry. Someone who's brand new to real estate investing. My husband and I married almost 6 years, and most of our time has been overseas. And so I'm excited to learn about this group. But with that being said, how much money? I know that you do a lot of different ways of creative investing or financing. So for someone who's brand new, I know you mentioned hardening lenders typically won't give out money on their first deal. So how much would you suggest for someone who's brand new? How much should they have saved? Just to kind of get started in real estate investing. I know, and that's probably just like a vague question. So say like the traditional 20% down, if a home is like $100,000, like should they already have that saved, or just based on your experience? Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. My actual journey started with owner occupied. So, just buying our own homes and then relocating, turning it into a rental, and buying another home, relocating, turning it into a rental. So that's kind of how we got started. I say we, but now I'm the investor, but that's how our portfolio started, if you will. So that's always an option. You can start out with just acquisition as it relates to an owner occupied situation. But if you're looking at an investment opportunity, yes, you could go the 20% down route. But looking at what that would be based on the market that you would be investing in. So you really have to hone in or bring in what you're looking to do, because that question can have lots of answers. So you and your spouse or whoever has to decide, what do we want to buy? Where do we want to buy? How much do we want to buy for? And then how do we finance that? And I think that's where you will get the answer to that question. So if you want to buy while you're overseas, but you don't want to do any type of rehab work, et cetera, then you might be in the 20% down situation, and then looking at what those numbers would look like based on the market that you're interested in going into. Does that answer your question, Gladys?
It does, I guess. And if it's too personal, that's fine. I guess with your deals with hard money lending, did you have to have capital set aside, even though they were, the initial startup? I know I don't really know much about hard money lending. So I didn't know if you had to have money aside, like paying for like the inspections, or did that come out of your pocket, or the LLC, I should say. You know, I don't know, I guess I just need to take the time to do more research and learn.
Well, yeah, no, those are great questions. So yeah, I didn't go into all the details of qualifying for that particular financing, but you have to have reserves. So, you know, the hard money lender wants to see that you have reserves for your portfolio. So it's not just being able to save up the 10% down in the hard money lender situation. It's being able to demonstrate that you're financially positioned to meet all of your obligations should the house or the project you know, take a turn for the worse, if you will, but that you're still secure enough to pay them out. They want to see that you can pay the loan back is really the primary thing. And so yeah, you do have to demonstrate that you have reserves to qualify. Reserves and experience are the two qualifiers that they're looking for. And you can demonstrate those two things with various types of documents.
Awesome. Thank you.
Shari, can I piggyback on that real quick? And please step in if you disagree, but my experience with that, Gladys, just to kind of, again, piggyback on that is if you can find a deal that makes sense and the numbers make sense, you can typically find the money to make it happen, right? Because everybody's looking, including other investors, they're looking to, you know, make money. So if you, and in my experience, finding the deal itself is probably the most difficult part of it's kind of the beginning of the journey. And that's the part where people have most, especially over here, more difficulties doing. So if you can find a deal that the numbers line up and everything else, then you can find typically people to help you out with financing it, hard money lending, maybe giving you a short-term loan, even a unsecured loan to make that happen if the numbers all line up. But I mean, at the end of the day, the experience is super important.
Thank you so much. My husband's very traditional, so he's like, he wants to buy a house first before I would love to have rental income. But my husband's like, no, we should get a house first before you think about doing that, which I understand. I know of people that don't have a house and have a bunch of rental income properties. So I was just wondering, but thank you.
Well,
Lori, I was just gonna add, oh, sorry, Derek, my bad.
Sorry, just buy a house with 3 other houses attached to it, and then you have rental income and you bought a house, and you can do that with a VA loan. So you're perfect.
Oh, duplexes. Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Lori, I was just gonna say that, I mean, buying the houses is not really about having the house. So for your husband's viewpoint, it's about passive income and building that passive income and that appreciation for later in life, because no one wants to work into their 80s. So whether you own a house or not is irrelevant, because what you're doing is you're building passive income for later on down the line, or to allow your family to do other things. Not everybody wants to own a house because a house is a lot of work. So there's that aspect as well.
My 1-year-old said, amen. Thank you.
I think Elkin has a question, or did we answer his question in the chat?
Yep. So I've got him next. Ratasha, I'm going to have you probably close it out unless I get one more question. So Elkin, if you can unmute yourself and ask Shari your question, please.
Hey, good morning, everybody, or evening, depending where you're at. So as the questions kept going, some of it was already answered. So I really appreciate that, because it sounds like everyone else or other people have questions similar to what I have, which is fantastic. It's good to see that, you know, especially someone new as in myself that's kind of starting my journey, other people have those same concerns or questions to kind of get started. And I apologize, my kids are in the background playing and whatnot, so I apologize for the background noise. But my question was, for me particularly, and I'm sure many people have experienced this, finding a good team, especially being overseas. You know, you hear about, you need a contractor that you trust, you know, a property manager, a real estate agent or broker, and all these other individuals that will be essential to your team. My worry is, how do you find someone that fits those bills, or what qualities do you look for in order to find an actual exceptional team that you can trust to run things on your behalf while you're so far away? And that was the first question. The second question was, I've always heard the term OPM, other people's money. And I know hard money, what is it? Hard money lenders is definitely one. But I've heard of other ways that you can also use that. And I'm uncertain if anyone else has experience with that, or if anyone could clarify that a little bit more for me. Those are just really the two questions I have.
So I'll take on the first part of your question, Elkin, about the team. It takes time to build your team of trust, but once you, so not only does our team members, or do our team members have to demonstrate to us that they are competent and they are true to their word, we have to demonstrate that to our team members. And so here's what I mean by that. When I'm working with my contractors and there's on a payment schedule for something and it's time for payment, they know within minutes of me saying you're going to get paid that the payment has processed, right? So being true to my word as it relates to the things that I'm supposed to do on my side, or if I'm supposed to order materials for them to pick up, that I've done my part, and they know I've done my part. So for example, this last week has been very busy with, for me, with one of my houses with a new tenant, a new tenant being put into one of the properties. And so, being responsive to my property manager as she's communicating with me about a couple of things that are going on. And so, my consistency and my availability, because I'm overseas. So, when I get up in the morning, I am making myself available. My team knows that I will check my text messages pretty early in the morning and respond to them. And then they know also that I have responsibilities with my children, and that a couple of hours after I respond to them is when I'm available for a call. But we've established that relationship, and I'm consistent to respond and give them what they need, and they're consistent to respond and give me what I need. And I have yet to have someone say they don't want to work with me anymore. And but I have had to tell someone else I don't want to work with them anymore. And so building a team is a two-way relationship. And we have to be willing to be present, even though we're overseas, and not use that as an excuse to be complacent. And I'm not saying you are, I'm just providing information, but just being available. And so it's an inconvenience for us because we are overseas, and everybody on here can attest to it. We lose a lot of sleep when we've got projects that are in the middle of whatever phase that needs our attention. We're up at 1, 2 in the morning sometimes, because we have to be on these calls, or we have to be available for decisions and things like that. And so it is an inconvenience for us. And you build that team because, so here's an example. My contractor GC said, hey, I know you need HVAC. I've got a guy, but in order for you to avoid, I know you need to cut costs, I'll give you his contact information and you can contact him directly, and you can avoid my markup for me managing him if you want to manage him. So I manage a lot of my subcontractors myself. I manage my electrician, I manage my HVAC, I manage my plumber. And I do that because it can save me, a little bit of money that will help me when my project is already over budget. And as I mentioned, I found my GC through Home Depot referral program. So word of mouth, and just using some vetted referrals. And then of course, I check my contractors. I check their licensing through our city and state websites that allow me to check the status of their license to ensure that they are still operating in compliance with our regulations. And then your property manager and your real estate brokers, Once you have a rental, usually in our city, our property managers are realtors as well. They'll start referring people to you and just starting to build your network. As it relates to OPM, I don't have any experience to offer you insight on outside of the fundings that I've done, but if one of the other team members has anything, please chime in.
Yeah, I'll take the OPM real quick, Shari, if that's okay with you. So honestly, one of the best sources of other people's money is your immediate friends and families. If you have people that, they know what you're doing or what you're trying to do, and hopefully if they're your friend or your family, they already kind of believe in you and trust you. So one of the best sources and quickest sources to kind of look at other people's money is honestly friends and family. And so like I've actually one of the deals that I've done about 2 years ago, actually borrowed money from my sister of all people. But obviously she's my sister, so I mean that was an easy conversation. But I also look at it as, hey, I'm doing this for me, but my sister doesn't have time to necessarily do what I'm doing, so I'm able to give her value and help her along as well, while utilizing some of her resources to better what I'm trying to do. So that's just one example, but that's when it comes to OPM, I think that's probably where everybody should start if you're able to. Obviously not everybody has a friend or family that's going to be able to provide resources that'll be beneficial or tangible to what you're trying to do. But if you do have that option.
Do you annotate this like in a promissory note? Like so you have the conversation, they're going to give you the resources. I'm curious how you go about, putting stuff in writing to either protect your sister's resources or protect you from the liability. Do you mind breaking?
No, definitely. That's a good question too. So when it comes to family, I do a promissory note because I trust most of my family, and the ones that I don't, we go a little further down the road. But it's just a simple promissory note. I reach out to my lawyer. Hey, these are the terms that we've agreed to. Can you draft it up, send it out for review to the individual that's lending us money, make sure they're okay with it, get it signed, notarized, and we're good to go. For those that are not necessarily either okay with that, or they're not like immediate family and maybe friends or friends of friends that are doing it, we go full on with a contract. So we have something drafted up again with our lawyer. Hey, these are the terms. We might even do second positions on liens. Pretty similar, honestly, to what you would probably do with a hard money lender. But technically they are a hard money lender. It's just that's not their job. You're just reaching out to them for money. But we do a full on contract with other individuals that aren't, definitely direct family. Hopefully that answered the question, Ann.
Yeah, I think it just helps. So yes, all of us have like an immediate circle of people we can reach out to who would entrust us with, money to help us achieve our goals. I just think it helps to outline what that looks like when you try to execute it, right? Because then you have the promissory note just to have something, and it's how much money as well as the terms, right? So for example, if you're doing a deal, I think we used 100,000 and you needed 20% down. And this is just really simplifying it because there's a lot of other factors involved. But basically, you needed $20,000. You have a sister or brother who has 20,000, and they're like medical field, whatever. They can't, they don't have the bandwidth. So you do up a promissory note. Say you're borrowing 20,000, and let's say the interest rate for a bank is maybe what 1% these days, 2%, and let's say you offer them 4% because now they're making more than what their money would be sitting in the bank, and you now have resources to be able to go do that deal that you want to do. So if I could break it down, I think that helps kind of showcase how that would work.
Correct, and that's exactly how we do it. And it's a quick thing to get done by a lawyer. I think our costs typically have those done are a couple $100. And we just factor that in for our cost. So Elkin, hopefully that answered your question with regards to both finding a team over while you're overseas and trying to utilize at least one option to utilize other people's money. I'm going to go ahead and call on Ritarsha as our last question, and then we'll continue on.
Shari, this is a one. First off, thank you for a fantastic presentation. It was nice to put names to things that I've been doing and see ways to tighten up some of the things that I've been doing not as efficiently as I could be. So I appreciate that. For the HUD houses, my question was, when you find those houses on the HUD listing and you've already got your hard money lender, is there a time period where you can back out if problems are found by your home inspection falls through, or once you say you're going to buy that HUD house, are you locked in?
Well, it's really, the transaction is just like all the other transactions. You have a, your contingency period where you write in whatever your contingencies are, whether it's financing or inspection, right? You can always write a contingency into the agreement of sale that, this is contingent upon, et cetera, et cetera. And so here's a little tip. So it can be contingent upon financing and how that could work in your favor as it relates to a hard money lender. So let's say we found a house on HUD and the inspection, and we had our pre-approval letter, et cetera. But during the inspection, we found that it had some structural issues that was going to require, let's say, an additional $15,000 to do some foundation work or something that we totally didn't account for, right? So now the ARV of the property is outside of what it would be. So the property has to be at approximately 75% of ARV. So purchase price plus rehab, this is the other piece I probably didn't mention, purchase price plus rehab should not equal more than 75% of ARV. And why that number is key, because on a DSCR loan, usually you get about a 70, 75, or 85% refinance. They will refinance you depending on where you're at either 70% of ARV, 75, or sometimes when you're in a great market, 80%. And so you want to make sure that the purchase price plus the rehab costs don't exceed that number, or you'll end up leaving lots of money in the deal when you go to cash it out. So how can you use that information to back out on the HUD? If you wrote a contingency on financing and during the inspection, additional costs for repairs came up, it's no longer a financeable project because the repair costs plus the purchase price now exceed 75% of ARV. Now, a hard money lender, one of the things also that the hard money lender does, they send out an appraiser, and the house gets appraised at an ARV. So the appraiser looks at our scope of work, takes that document of everything we said we're going to do, how much it's going to cost, and then they take the agreement of sale, how much the house currently costs. They go out to the house, the appraiser looks at the house in its current condition and determines an actual appraised ARV based on what we say we're going to do. And so if this original scope of work ends up needing after inspection another, let's call it $15,000, $20,000, now that just kind of blew away the whole plan, because now we're outside of what was put together as it relates to purchase price, rehab, and ARV that was approved by the lender. And the lender would not approve a scope of work that added $15,000 or $20,000 to the project, because that will put the house outside of the appraised value of 75%. Does that make sense? So then that's your financial way to back out of it, because it no longer meets the financial requirements of the lender. So even though you had a pre-approval, The financial backing out doesn't mean you could no longer afford it. It just means financially, after the due diligence period, the project no longer doesn't pass the test for financing.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for that detailed explanation.
Tarsha, thank you for your question. I think that was definitely an excellent one to ask. And I would love, honestly, later to sit down with Shari and get some more heads up on the Home Depot contract finder and maybe even HUD properties as well. So maybe we'll have to do that another time. For everybody that's still here, on your screen, you'll see a QR code. If you guys would save that or click on it now, it says survey. I think it's like 5 or 10 questions. If you guys would complete it, we would greatly appreciate it. It helps us improve these presentations. And, if there's something you think we can improve or something we didn't do very well, please give us that feedback. This is a QR code for the previous events that we have run. So this is, and if I'm not mistaken, our 5th event as Asia Pacific.
Yes, it is our 5th event, and all the previously recorded events past 4 are on a playlist on YouTube, and that QR code will take you directly to the playlist.
So please take a look at those. There's some really good information on there with regards to taxes, LLCs, lending, how to run some of the numbers that Shari was talking about, getting to that 75% and rent numbers and everything else. So please take a look at those and, increase your level of knowledge. And you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So hopefully you guys had a pretty good taste of what the Team Asia Pacific with this Asia Virtual series does for our community, not only, of course, with our local community, whether you be in Yokota or you're at Humphreys or you're on Anderson Air Force Base. But even we have, people in Hawaii and whatnot. So, but we are still looking, to grow. Mainly in Korea. So the things that you see in yellow, those means that person will be leaving the area soon. So I think Shari, I don't know if you have a replacement yet, but that's definitely what we're looking at. So if anyone here is at Zama and who would like to work with Shari and talk about what it would mean to replace her as a host, you're welcome to do that. For me here at Yokota, I have Whitney and Ari on board, so I think we're good to go. But of course, if anyone else if anybody else is interested, wants more help, I think no one would ever turn away more help, right? And then the ones in red where you see the circle, those are areas that we don't have representation. And of course, being where we are, we would like to, kind of bring everybody in. So you see here in Japan that we need someone in Iwakuni or Sasebo. Over in Korea, we don't have anybody in the Daegu Area 4 location or in Osan or in Kunsan. So Yvette, if you know anybody in those places, feel free to share. I'm always happy to do introductions and just let people know what it would take. That's all I got.
Awesome. And thank you for explaining, kind of where everybody's at and where we can use some help to make this even better. So again, I'd like to thank everybody, especially Shari for being our guest speaker today. Obviously the host as well, for making the breakout rooms and help facilitating this. All of our guests today as well that have joined us. We can't do this without you guys, and we appreciate your questions and you guys taking time out of your day to spend it with us, and hopefully you learning some stuff. Hopefully you guys will join us for the next ones that we do. This will be kind of a quarterly event, and you'll see stuff posted on ADPI about the next one when it comes up. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Shari or Ann, any closing remarks for anybody?
Go ahead, Shari.
No, I'll stick around after you stop recording in case anybody has any extra additional questions.
Awesome. And I'll just say, thank you across the board for the participants. You being here today is what would be here. You know, all of us are very interested not only in opportunities to network, meet other like-minded folks. We're looking for opportunities to learn, and that would not be possible without all of us coming together. So thank you for being here. For the Asia Pacific team, thank you for being here. Because again, I only have so much experience and only so much of a network. Combining us together makes us very, very powerful and just really valuable to, you know, anyone who's here. So thank you for being a part of all of this. Derek, I want to do a huge shout out to you because I know managing the slides, managing the chat, there's a lot of things that go around and you're still able to talk, you know, and address things openly. So it's a lot of work, but you're very skilled. So thank you for continuing to do this. This is actually Derek's third. But before this, he had never done any hosting. So it's really awesome to see where you started and where you are today after only 3. So really good stuff. So thank you, Derek. Thank you, Shari, for sharing your wonderful information. It is, I would say, other than tax and legal, how to find deals and close deals while overseas is the third biggest question is, you know, how do you even do that? So thank you for sharing your experience with us at the group. So thank you everyone for being here. I hope you get to enjoy what's left of your Saturday. And again, don't let the conversation end here. Please reach out to someone, if not two, and continue this conversation outside of this event.